VS Code still has a few tricks up its sleeves. Hey chatters, my name's Brendan, and in today's episode of DevChatter, we're going to be taking a look at 3 more things, yeah, there are still more, that you didn't know about VS Code. Let's get started. Starting things off, I want to talk about a couple of things you can do with automation in VS Code. The first one is this. We're actually able to run scripts when you open up your project. Now, I'm going to show you a little example of that by reopening this same project. When we start with this, I have a basic node project. It has a package.json, but this has a say hello script in it. Yeah, your script is going to be different, and I'll explain what kinds of script you might want to do with this. But this is going to make our task simple to see what's happening. In here, we have our tasks.json file, and this is inside of a .vscode folder. This means that this is part of our VS Code setup. So this is going to work in VS Code. I said I want to run a script when we start up the project. So this is a documented script that you can find information about on the VS Code documentation, and one of its options for run is to run on folder open. So by doing that, we're then able to set up this basic command that runs our npm run say hello script. When it does that, it's gonna, as you expect, say hello. Manage automatic tasks and folders and say allow automatic tasks and folder. That is going to create our settings.json file, which is going to say task allow automatic tasks. Once we do that, we go ahead and save, close the folder, and then when we open this folder again, what we end up with is a terminal comes up. I don't have to touch anything to make that happen, and it runs hello world. So what kind of code might you want to run as part of this? Well, a lot of people will do things like, say, if you're working on some web projects, you might do something where the script automatically does an npm install and spins up a version of your web API or spins up your website or something like that. Some projects I've worked on, they spin up the web API and the running project, and they'll have it watching the code so that when the code changes, it automatically updates. So doing hot reloads of the site so that it's quick and easy to continue doing development on your project without any extra work. And it happens as part of VS Code opening. So if you close VS Code, then it shuts down the sites and they're just there while VS Code is running. So these are the kinds of things that you can set up. Some people also do some little checks, like fetching the code from Git so that you make sure you've got latest copies of stuff. There's all kinds of things you can do with a startup script in VS Code. This VS Code tip is a little bit weird. You might have noticed I switched over to GitHub. And you go, well, hang on, Brendan, this is VS Code tips. I was here for VS Code. Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and just hit the dot keyboard on my keyboard. As soon as it's loaded, look, it's VS Code. So I have access to VS Code inside of GitHub. Notice all it did was change the URL up here and take me into the same location. So it modified me from github.com to github.dev and then took me into the same folder. And now I have access to all of the stuff in here that I might want to edit. So if I want to go grab my about page, hey, there's my about page. And I can make modifications as I like to this. And I didn't really even have to leave GitHub. All I did was press the dot key on my keyboard. And that's it. So awesome. You've got VS Code wherever you've got a browser. You don't even need to install it. Now for this tip, I want to show a little bit of customization that you may not know about. So a lot of people know from our previous videos that you may have seen up there that you can take this sidebar and move it to the other side. Move the primary sidebar over to the right, and I can move it to the left. Now we talked about that already. However, did you know that you can actually toggle these panels using these buttons and actually change the layout if you want? So you can decide, do I want to have the primary status bar down there? Do I want to have this panel there? And these are those same pieces. However, there's more to it than that. If you'll notice, I can remove the bar entirely that showed that sidebar. So if I don't even want it there, you can clear it out entirely. Additionally, you can come down here And you can decide what's going to happen with some of these panels. So centering makes it so that this terminal no longer overlaps if you use this right-hand sidebar here. You can also drag where these are. So if I want my Git lens to be over here on the right, I can do that. If I want to move my sidebar here, I can do that from here. So if I want to take my debug console and drag it over to the right, I can. And then the debug console is now on the right. If I want to take my output window and put it on the right, I can do that as well. And I've got output and debug stacked over here. So you can do a lot of customizations with VS Code, more than what most people think. And it's pretty intuitive, because you just drag and drop the pieces around. But knowing that you can toggle whether or not they're shown by pressing these, and you can go ahead in here and make some other adjustments as well. So I'm going to turn this back to right. I like the long terminal, but you may want something different. Pick what you like and go with it. Thanks for watching this episode of DevChatter. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to click the like and subscribe button, because you know how YouTube works, and if I don't tell you to do that, you'll never figure it out. And if there's some VS Code tip that I haven't mentioned, please comment down below so that I and the rest of our viewers know which one you think is the best one to know about. Take care, and happy coding, everyone.